host of the Gridiron.
I did this with Amani Toomer. It was like last week. He said the Giants just looking like poop, right? So he's still going off on the Giants here. He's not. He said the current Giants state is unacceptable. So he's not happy. He's not happy with the Giants. The road they're going down, how they're being looked at from the rest of the NFL and everything. Like they're just a total embarrassment and all that, right? Let's see here. We got the old Darius Slayton here. Oh, this is a long, oh my God, it's a long arm. Disappointed legend, Amani Toomer, to the Giants. Show me the baby. Show me something to be proud of, which is farthest thing Giants are doing. So one thing was when Amani Toomer got to the Giants as a second-round pick out of Michigan in 1996, Dan Reeves was the Giants coach. That would be Dan Reeves' fourth season. Reeves was there 93, 94, 95, 96. That was Reeves. That'll be Reeves' last season with the Giants. And Reeves and George Young, the Giants GM, did not get along, Toomer recalled late last week. So everybody would be in the locker room taking stock of who brought you here. Toomer, who was 50, Super Bowl champion, the Giants Ring of Honor, said there was a defensive lineman that Dan Reeves signed. Gave a big signing bonus, but George Young didn't like him. So halfway through training camp, they cut him. Then because George Young cut one of Dan Reeves' guys, Dan Reeves turned around and cut one of George Young's guys. So it just became this thing where the main thing wasn't the main thing, Toomer continued. It wasn't about how well you performed on the field. It was about how well you fit in, who likes you, who brought you here. And it was just a total cancer because we knew at the end of the day, it didn't matter how great you played. If they didn't want you, they didn't want you. That toxic dynamic ended, however, when Ernie Accorsi and Jim Fossil took over in 97. They cut all of that out, Toomer said. I remember Fossil's first meeting, he was like, I don't have a lot of rules because I don't want to fine you. Right? He said, I just want you guys to come in and play. And if you play well, you'll be here. If you don't, you will not. Okay, much more simpler than that. Giants gradually ascended as a franchise from there with a Super Bowl appearance in 2000. Then Tom Coughlin took over for Fossil, and performance and accountability defined a Giants standard that galvanized 2 Super Bowl championships. Most memorably, Coughlin's rule that players had to show up 5 minutes early to every meeting or practice constantly reinforced his Giants' expectations. It was to let you know that if you're not willing to do this little thing by coming early, then you probably aren't dedicated to the team, Toomer said. And those kinds of little tests have to be made all the time. Toomer's been reminiscing candidly about the glory days of last week because he is frustrated with what he has seen from his beloved Giants the past 2 years, and he is far from the only one. Obviously, we're talking about Michael Strahan waving the Eagles flag. So Toomer thinks that the Giants organization should be held to that same standard now. We had to perform to remain on the Giants, Toomer said. We had to prove our mettle year in, year out, play in, play out. And it was very conditional. So now that I'm not a player anymore and I'm on the other side of things, I want to hold the organization the same standard that they held us to where we're not just going to be sitting back and cheering and all that stuff. We're going to support the team because we love the organization, Toomer said. But when I see the organization kind of flowering the way it is, and then I see the organization kind of just say, oh, well, let's just do the same thing again and we'll see if it gets any better. That's where I'm just kind of like, nah, man, I can't understand where Strahan's he said, I can understand where Strahan's coming from. And I think a lot of people are like that. We're just disappointed. Toomer has earned the right to talk like that about the Giants, with whom he played his entire 13-year NFL career with. Same thing with Michael, right? He holds the Giants franchise record for career receptions, 668, receiving yards, 9,497, and touchdown catches with 54, and consecutive games with a catch of 98. He also holds the Giants' postseason record for receptions at 44, 608 yards, and touchdowns with 7. That includes 21 catches, 280 yards, and 3 touchdowns during the Giants' playoff run in Super 42, right? The top of the undefeated Patriots. So this is not a hater talking. This is a player who bled blue, trying to constructively criticize something he knows to be wrong in order to help turn the franchise he loves around. I love Brian Dable and I love Joe Shane, Toomer said, but at the end of the day, this is not a personality contest. This is a results business, and the results just aren't there. It's not personal. I don't hate those guys. I just want the results. It's like, show me the baby. Show me the money, right? Show me something to be proud of. Toomer said it's not just former players on the outside who are disappointed. It goes all the way to the top of the organization internally. There should be nobody comfortable in that building, Toomer said. The last 2 years, I know the owner's not happy. I know that for a fact. I know that the front office isn't happy. Why is co-owner John Mara running back this regime then if he isn't happy? I really can't answer that, Toomer said. I can't answer that. That's his decision. Numerous issues stand out to Toomer that must be corrected, though. Drafting and development. Now, last year, the drafting was very good. The problem we have is developmental of our players, right? The draft picks have not panned out. It's sad to see players have to go other places to let their talent show. The development of our players is just not there. No, I said the last year, the draft class was very, very good. Very good. But they need to develop these players better. That might be one of the reasons why Henderson is no longer the cornerback coach, because he did not develop Banks. They drafted Banks, and he started taking a little step backwards. Didn't develop him. Maybe that's a reason why he's not there. Bobby Johnson, right, the offensive line coach, couldn't develop anybody. Our offensive line was just shambles, right? Couldn't pick up a stunt. Couldn't pick up anything. Right? I mean, Zudu, Neal, a lot of these guys, the younger guys, was not able to develop them. So maybe that's one of the reasons why he went bye-bye. Attention to detail on the field. Kicks, block, tackling. Tackling is atrocious. Being in the right position, not blowing coverages, catching the football, making the extra effort to block, not fumbling the football, turnovers. Those are things that kill you as a football team. Unforced errors. In the NFL, they say more games are lost than won. That's the old adage. There were about 9 or 10 games that were lost with no opportunity to win because of the self-inflicted wounds that the Giants had. It had nothing to do with the other team. Lack of effort. We have a corner out there who's not. We have a corner out there who's not. We have somebody out there. I'm not going to say any names, who's not putting forth effort. I guess he's talking about Banks. That is the basics of winning. How do you not play with effort in the NFL? That's one of two things. Either they're not holding them accountable, or the team isn't deep enough to where you have a real fear of losing a position every day of the week. Well, I'll tell you what, if we bring in a cornerback, we draft a cornerback early on, well, that might put a little bit more fear into Mr. Banks losing his job. Letting good players go. When you let a guy like Saquon, who was all the above, and just because he plays running back, you don't have the creativity to figure out how to make the running back, how to have the best player be the focal point of your offense, I have a problem with that, because that's not how my experience or any oldest players' experience with the Giants was. If you can play, you're going to stay here. Not good enough up front. The Eagles took the Giants playbook, then took how we won in 07 and 11 and created the team around a defensive line that took one of the most elite quarterbacks we've seen in years and made him look pedestrian. You need to build up the trenches. You can win in this league without an elite quarterback. You cannot win this league without an elite offensive line. Cultural questions. We let 3 Pro Bowlers walk out the building: Xavier McKinney, Saquon, and Leonard Williams. We let them just go. And I'm sure there's more of them. Evan Ingram, even Sterling Shepard played well. J Love with special sauce, right? That's a cultural problem. And you can draft whoever you want. We could have drafted Patrick Mahomes. If that culture is not there, that's a big problem. How does an NFL team change a culture? Toomer knows from experience dating back to his days watching Reeves and Young transition to Corsi and Fassel, and eventually to Coughlin and GM Jerry Reese. You've got to change everything, Toomer said. The way you practice everything. So there's nothing similar from last year. Comfortability kills a team. That's true. And they feel comfortable, raise the bar of expectations to the point where if you don't want to become part of this team, it becomes brutally honest. For more Toomer's out, so yeah. Toomer was not happy at all. But one of the things is that, and I understand what he's talking about, but as far as like letting guys go, one of the problems is that, we should bring in a new regime, right? I mean, Julian Love was not drafted by these guys. Saquon Barkley was not drafted by these guys. Xavier McKinney was not drafted by these guys. Leo the Lion, right? He was not traded for by these guys. Yeah, I mean, we let all these guys go, but I mean, a lot of these guys, a lot of them, it's like, we want to win with our guys. We drafted these guys. We're going to play with these guys. We're bringing these guys in. These are our guys. Those guys just came with the team. They let Dana Jones go. I mean, that's one of the problems when you have all this turnover, right? The same thing's going to happen. Same thing's going to happen, right? If you let Shane and Dable go, either this year or next year, whatever it might want to be, and the new regime that comes in is going to look at the roster. Well, that's cool. A couple guys there, but they're not our guys. I don't like any of these guys. We got to bring our own guys in. And you let these guys go and bring in our own guys. So it's very, very difficult. Very, very. It's not, obviously it's not that easy. But one thing is we get another good draft class in here. But certain things he's absolutely right about, like one with Banks. I mean, you got a lot of fire under that guy's rear end or something. I mean, it just you bring somebody in, right? I mean, it's well, you sit on the bench there, Banks. If you want to play, you better put you on the field. You better your rear end better be on fire. You better be running. You better be jumping over piles. You better be tackling. You better be. Right? If not, you just sit on the bench. We'll just and we'll just let you go. Right? But I mean, so I'm sure it's very, very disappointing. I mean, it's disappointing for everybody. I mean, I've seen the bad. I came in the 70s. We were horrible, right? And then in the 80s with Parcells, and then we came kind of down a little bit in the 90s, and then with Coughlin back up and won a couple Super Bowls, and now we're back down again. So I've been on the roller coaster ride. So hurts me just as much as it does him. I mean, of course, I haven't played for the Giants like he did, but we all bleed blue. It's very, very difficult.